My name is George Fredericks. I was born in Grassy Park, Cape Peninsula, but I was my parent. Both my parents were in the teaching profession, and at the time when they were around, they had to the church to which you belong that determined where you're going. And so, with the result, my dad was first in the Namakoland. And then from there, after his marriage to my mom, she was a hector. My father received a post as head of a two-man post in a hamlet in the Karoo, namely Merweville.
Okay.
That was really that really impacted on me. My high school career, it was a pleasure to be in my mom's class, but it was not such a pleasure to be in my dad's class because he had a very high standard of things. I can recall one day he was asking us, me specifically, 9 times 8, and I was blank that morning, and he was chasing me all around the board. And then afterwards we had an English, something in English, and he asked the children, do you sit on your dad's lap from time to time, and does he tell you a story? And he asked me that question. I said, no, my dad doesn't do that. But I mean, otherwise, he sent me to high school in town again, South Peninsula, and that was an excellent high school. I mean, it's still it is an excellent high school. I was molded there, both politically and of course academically also. And from there I went to UWC to do the diploma in Library and Information Science.
What year was this around about?
That was in 65. I started at UWC, and I completed it, I think it was 67, because we were, and people tend to forget this, but Adam Small was the first colored that served on the Senate at UWC.
Okay.
And one year we were asked to go to where the IT building is now. We were asked to go there under the flag, and we had to, it was the 31st of May, the Republican Day, and we refused. It was sent around to the students, and the time when they wanted us to move that way, we went down the road and we dispersed. Adam Small right in front. And that really was something for the whites. They couldn't understand this. You must know, at that time it was the type of people that were put there. They were placed there to educate the colors to become excellent citizens. And that is why it was only teaching and nursing and stuff like that was taught at that time. After being at UWC, I was given a post at UWC in the library. That was in the late 60s, after which I came, 69, I came to Paarl. And I did not know at that time that I'll meet my future wife here in Paarl. And, but what really struck me here in Paarl was, she was fair of complexion. And from time to time, police followed us home, just to see if we aren't trespassing any act or so. And something that really struck me was that I had to take her every month, so to speak. I had to take her up to Cedar Paarl, where they stayed. They stayed in South Street.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, nobody knows this, but does the government of the day, do they understand what they did to the people by taking them there and throwing them in Paarl East? They just threw them there. And the impact, the fact that she wanted just to pass their house and then come back again, that was really something special. I opened the first library here in Paarl East, yes. It was, and at that time, here was a library for whites was in Mill Street, Mill Street.
Okay.
You, as a citizen of Paarl, a colored citizen of Paarl, you weren't allowed to belong to the library. Our people went to the colored library in Wellington
Okay.
to get books. They weren't allowed. After which I went to Grassy Park for a year or two. And there something in reverse happened again. People from Sikufle, they wanted to come to the library in Grassy Park for books. And I couldn't give it to them because law prevented me. That library was for coloreds and not for whites. And there the whole thing changed again, you see. And after which I was phoned by the university librarian at UWC saying that if I don't come back now, he'll close my path forever. So I had to go back to him. I had to go back to him. That was in the 1973, around about there. And from there, of course, I realized that if a person wants to progress within the library information science field, you have to study.
Yeah, education is important.
Yeah. And so what I did is I started with the BA through UNISA. And I completed it in early 70s. Then I did the higher diploma in library information science at UWC.
Okay.
The honors and the M also at UWC, plus the PhD also.
Okay.
And that really urged me to go right up and then wait for whatever post becomes available. Then I can apply for it.
To just query, I'm assuming you were at UWC at the time. How did the 76 student uprising impact life at UWC at that time?
It had an impact in the sense that people then realized there's something major wrong within this country. That was the message that went out. It was started with the burning of the ties. Look, we had to wear ties to classes at UWC. That was 73. And then one guy started burning his ties, and all of us just burnt our ties. That was a real shocker to the rector at that time. I'm not sure who the person was. Meiring was the rector at that time. But things changed. People began to listen to what the students had to say. The SRCs and so forth. I had a discussion with Gibbs. He was the cricket player's father. He was at UWC also, and he was chairperson of the SRC at that time. And they could reach certain things. That was under Meiring, and there was another guy from theology, Krill, I think. And then a guy from Stellenbosch was moved over. And then after him, Professor van der Roske. Okay. Things then changed. We could go over to the rector and tell him that there are certain things, a selected few, we would go over to him, and he would listen to us. Okay. Telling him he must watch out because people are doing things behind his back that he's not even aware of. If they go to a Senate meeting, for instance, then they would have discussed, certain things beforehand. And then when they come to Senate, they're in the majority. So then they push certain things through, you see. And then after Van der Rosse, it was Jakes Gerwel, Jakes, and then Abrams. But Abrams didn't have a major impact, and then of course Brian O'Connell. But I started whilst working in the university library. I started giving lectures in the Department of Library Information Science. Okay. And then later on I had a chance to apply for the junior lecturership, senior lecturership, associate professorship and so forth. I was elected deputy dean quite a few times. And but at that time, Professor, the guy from music, who was he? He was at the Tutu Foundation for Finance at the corner, of the campus.
Oh yes, I see the building.
Nicky, what was Nicky's? But anyway, he was in the Department of Music,
Okay.
and while he was deputy dean,
Mm-hmm.
the university decided to close the Department of Music.
Music, yes.
So with the result, if he wasn't deputy dean, there was no post available for him.
Mm.
So that really made, although people came to me and said, hey, present yourself when we want you to be the deputy. So I told him, no, but I can't. I mean, that person would be without any work or something. So yes, and then of course he retired, not retired, he was moved over to the Center of Music, and near the corner.
Oh, Music and Performing Arts.
Yeah, that is good, yeah.
Center for Performing Arts.
Yeah, so he was head of department there.
Oh, okay.
And
Professor Fred, sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you, but this, as the politics in the country were unfolding, specifically around that time, was the impact felt here in Paarl? Were people aware of what's happening in the country?
yes, I can assure you, because before I came to Paarl, I came here in '69.
Yeah.
Now, during the 60s, they had the uprising here. Look, the people in Paarl East, they were colours staying there, there were Africans staying there,
Mm.
and there were quite a few people, radical people, who stayed there. And the government had problems with them.
Okay.
When I came here in '69, here coming back to Paarl, having to stay on that side, having to open a library also on that side, getting married, having children, and then of course came the awakening. Going for a drive, and then my kids see some swings around. Daddy, can't we go there? And then my answer to them is, you can't go there. Why not? Because you're not white. But I am white, Daddy. You see, that is snaps for blancas. That is that, and the same with the sea also. I mean, Strand. You come around there, and here all of a sudden you've got a lovely beach
But
with
you're not
sand. But there's
whites only.
only for whites, and that impacted on my family life. Children couldn't understand it. It's really, and to here in Paarl, of course, in the 70s, I mean, all the schools were in turmoil.
Yes.
I can assure you that Noda Paarl, Polish Joubert, everything. I mean, kids had to hide, kids had to run around, and they had to sleep at different places.
Because there was quite aggressive reaction by the police and security forces.
No, definitely. And then most of these kids, if they had a meeting the evening, they would then not go home. They would rather go sleep at somebody else's place, because they knew they would be picked up that particular evening because of what they said at the meeting, you see.
Okay.
Because you had informers everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, so you had to be very careful what you say in public and so forth. But yes, it's really, and coming towards '94, that was a relief for us, definitely.
The '85 state of emergency, how was accepted in Paarl? How was it received?
Man, I suppose the more senior people accepted it, but the youngsters didn't. They simply just went on with whatever they were doing. They were prepared. They were prepared to give up their education. That whole slogan.
Education, liberation before education.
Yeah, that was really pushed very hard here.
Okay.
And
do you remember any of the notable people who were involved in politics from Paarl?
yeah, there were quite a few students that I recall. I know, was it Albert Coulson? Albert was one of the guys that the police were looking out for him. They really wanted him. Muawiyah Murat, that works for the local authority.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys that he refused to go back to school, because he said that they want change here in the country and so forth. So yes, and this whole thing about, look, that thing moved over to sport also. No sport within an abnormal society.
No normal sport.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was, and do you know that really ripped families apart? Your whole idea of SACCOS. The youngsters following SACCOS, the elder people following like for instance here in Paarl, I mean rugby was a religion here in Paarl, in the old crowd. The older people sticking with their federation.
Sorrow.
No, federation, that was federation.
But with the federation, I've heard people mention the federation as a bunch of sellouts.
Yeah, they were seen as, you see, because they Craven and them, they were working together. And Craven was organizing tours for them. And then of course paying for it also, you see. Whereas Saru said, no ways, we're not gonna cooperate with you guys, and we don't want international any matches here, you see. So with the result, you'll find people here, like for instance, if I take my club Standards, they went and play in Wellington. They were there. I can remember the evening when they decided that we're going now. Then the elder members of Standards, they heard about it and they came to come and tell them, trying to convince them. And I told them, but I'm not playing rugby anymore. So I go wherever these kids decide they want to go. I go with them. Where the elderly people said, no, we don't. You don't go there. You stay here with the federation. And then the kids said, where were you all the years when we were looking for you? Now all of a sudden you here by us. I said, go to heaven. And then they went ahead and they went to Wellington and they played for Saru. We had a wonderful Boland team at that time. Sometimes about 10 of them would be from Paarl.
Okay.
You had sub-unions, like for instance, Stellenbosch, Groenland, and then here Worcester, Paarl, and then Wellington. And then that formed the Boland team.
Okay.
And we had junior teams also. We had junior teams. I was responsible for the junior rugby here. We had organized junior rugby. I mean, that was up till under 19. We had organized, and we had union teams playing for Paarl Union, playing against Stellenbosch Union, that type of thing.
And how did the establishment take this?
No, they hated it. I mean, they refused to give people playing for Boland Saru. They, if they had to go and play, say, at Southwestern Districts, for instance, the people, their bosses would refuse them any leave to leave early to go play there. You see, that is the type of thing that you have to deal with. We had a major case against Federation. At that time, we had the management committees. Remember that? The management committees, colored management committees. And all of them were Federation. Now, it was a crowd, and then one day we went to them. We went to Wellington, but I mean the traveling, we had to play against teams in Ceres, and that was really costly. And I mean, coming from our
background.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then we wanted to have a field in Paarl. We went to the management committee because they was the only organization that we could go to. You know, those people told us that afternoon, the delegation of the Federation is sitting in the other room. Go to them. We've given the field, the Kraal. We've given them to them for, is it 99 years or something to that effect?
Normal lease.
And so go speak to them and ask them what days you can use the ground. And we refused. So we told the chairperson, listen here, we're going to see you in court. This is nonsense. This is unacceptable. And then we had Advocate Jacobs. He was also from Paarl. He represented us, and we won the case. They were told, and the local authority were told, you must give those people places because they are paying rates in Paarl. So that was a major victory for us. And
sorry, sir, to interrupt quickly. Relating to the forced removals which you spoke about earlier, were the people ever compensated for their properties?
They were, but not enough. in most cases, people had furniture here on this side, Paarl West, and they couldn't move with that furniture over to whatever they were given on the other side because the place was too small over there.
Okay.
So, and the money that they received, that is why most of the people are applying for the compensation that the government.
The land claims.
Yeah, that is quite a lot of them are applying for it. Even our church also. I belong to the Congregational Church. Our church building is still standing in Rose Street. A church that our people built.
With your own funds, own
funds,
skills.
everything. They built a church, they built a hall, and they built classrooms because government didn't worry. They didn't worry about schooling for us. Classrooms, they built a house for the principal and of course a manse. So at that time it was the Reverend William Lloyd that was the Reverend here. The building is still standing there, and we are claiming that from the Claims Commission now. They offered us over $1 million, and we told them that we're not satisfied. And then that is for that building plus a building Bethesda that we had where the mall is today, where Edgar's is situated today. That was our classrooms and a hall up there where they had church meetings and they had schooling also up there.
Okay.
And then they had a little hall more towards the Mundum side. Simondium, it's a Bethlehem hall where they also had some classes. And apart from that, they had to start with classes in Paarl East because people were moving that way. Bethany, that was also built by the church.
Okay.
So and then of course when the government decided you guys must go now, we had to find something else on that side, and we had to buy. I mean, the money that they gave us is peanuts. We had to buy ground over there, and they built Lloyd Memorial. It's a little hall with which was subdivided into classrooms. And then first of all, we had to build a manse. The reason for that being, we had a manse here, but Reverend Thorne was the first black preacher that we appointed, and he couldn't stay in the manse here. The church had to apply for a permit for that man to stay in the manse because it was in a white area.
So the apartheid laws even sought to dictate to the church.
To the church, no, definitely.
What the rule is.
No, it is so. It is so, and you must know that we, with the whole movement of the congregation, not the whole movement, but some of the congregation that way, that there was created a distance between where people stayed
and where they worship.
The church.
Yes.
So with the result, we lost quite a few.
Yeah.
Of the congregation. They just decided not to attend church any longer.
Mr. Samai mentioned this.
Yeah. Davy.
Yes,
Yeah.
we interviewed him. He
Okay.
also said one of the things he struggled with after the move was most of his choir members practiced at the church. And
Yeah.
if you couldn't get to the church regularly,
Yeah.
you can't have a good choir.
That is true. But the same thing applies to the children also. Children that at schools here, at what's it, here at the church and in Paarl South,
Yes.
they couldn't attend schools here anymore because they were right in Paarl East. So with the result, they had to attend schools that was created by the DRC church. They had one or two, but the schools were full over there. So with the result, they had to build. What they did is they built William Lloyd, and then they built the men's, and then afterwards the hall, because so that they can have classes in the hall also. So that was also something very great. And then you're aware that the Bethel Congregational Church is one of the churches that was responsible for the building of Paarl.
Okay.
Paarl High School.
I didn't know.
Paarl, there were 5 churches, 2 Anglican churches, Holy Trinity and St. Stephen's, 2 DRC churches, Zion's and Emmanuel and Bethel. They came together, and people within their congregations, they decided to get some money,
Raise funds?
raise funds, and they built a school down there. First of all, a primary school, then a school going up to Standard 8, then a school going after 8, a training school for teachers. They built it all down there, and with the result, then they sold that building to the department, and they created the Athlone Training College next door to it.
Okay.
So you must really go down there, Berlin Street. The training college, and of course the hostel over the road. So, and today they've created the Athlone Institute.
Okay.
And they provide students wanting to study further with bursaries. And they've sold Athlone. They've sold Athlone also to the department. With the result, they are a few millions strong, and now they are.
So it's quite capable fund.
Yeah, no, definitely, and they're making. They've created a center. The acronym is AOS, Athlone House of Strength.
Oh, okay.
It's for mothers and children that were molested at home. Now it's a safe place where they can go to for a few days or so, and they're fed, and then they
much like the Saki Bartman Center.
Yeah.
A place of safety.
That is true, yes.
In your opinion, you must been around here, you've been in town, you've been exposed to like the different politics, like what happened in the country. Would you say the mindset in Paarl has changed much between what it was then and what it is now?
I doubt it very much. The mindset, if you take our political parties today, and I say in Charleston Hill, it's your so-called colored, your guys with professional qualifications and that type of thing. In '94 that we had the first election, we won that ward. The ANC won the ward, and that was the last time. Afterwards, the DA came in, and it's each and every year. You simply can't change the minds of those people, unfortunately.
And the people of Paarl never said sorry to the coloured and the black community for putting them off their property, and never once acknowledged that they did anyone any wrong.
No, sir. No, none whatsoever. It's people, not of Paarl, never. You see, we do have a DA municipality here also. So it depends who's in charge now. The first, I think the two sessions the ANC was in charge. But then of course you get it amongst. You see, the problem is people watch what's going on nationally.
Okay.
And that influences them. And I spoke to quite a few of our guys also. I'm in contact with them from time to time. I tell them, listen, tell those guys up there, they ought to get their ducks in right in a row, because these people are influenced just like that. You can come to them and tell them a story.
Their mind's made up.
No, definitely. And you see, I think we're still suffering from apartheid. The whole idea of Ome colors as beter as Ome color. You see, that is unfortunately the case, and we have quite a few, not quite a few, but the majority of our people are still, that's their mindset.
The mentality, they're still locked in the past.
That is true, yes. You speak to this seniors, you'll get a negative qualification all the right through. It's the youngsters maybe, but it seems to me that as soon as they start to earn, or as soon as they're into a permanent post or something like that, it seems to me that they change.
I think that's tied to what you said earlier, that we're still living with the consequences of apartheid.
No, it isn't.
Because if we were to honestly ask ourselves the question, who owns the economy? Now, of course, even if you are against the system, but you need the system in order to survive,
No, it isn't.
you are going to moderate your voice.
Yeah.
You're going to keep a lot of what you would have said to
Yeah.
yourself rather.
No, it isn't.